Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim's Anniversary Edition update for Skyrim Special Edition. My name is Camel, and today we are going to be taking a look at every single unique, rare, and notable item that you can acquire with the new fishing that came with the Skyrim Anniversary Edition. It's a free update, at least the fishing bit is. I'll show you how to get each and every single one of them. We'll talk about their lore and how they function in-game and how they can best be used. In total, there are 18 items that we will be covering, which alphabetically are as follows: the Alik'ri Fishing Rod, the Argonian Fishing Rod, Denstagmer's Ring, the Dwarven Fishing Rod, the Fang Of Haynekhtnamet, the Irkngthand War Axe of Fire, the Irkngthand War Axe of Freezing, the Lucky Fishing Hat, Lynea's Amulet of Dibella, the Mentor's Ring, the Ring of the Khajiit, the Ring of Kynareth, the Ring of Phynaster, the Ring of Surroundings, the Ring of the Wind, the Vampiric Ring, Viriya's Charm, and the Warlock's Ring. So there is a lot to cover, as no doubt you have seen with the length of this video, and we will be covering them in the order that I got them, as most of them come from two quest lines that are linear, but certain quests are locked behind a progression gate based on the other quest line. So you might be able to get these items in a different order than I do. All I can say is that the sequence we follow in this video is the one that worked for me. But no big deal, the quests aren't going anywhere. Do them in whatever order you can/want. And there are a few pieces that can be fished up. A very small chance that will happen, but that's the only way to get them, and we'll cover those at the end as their acquisition is just totally random. Now, timestamps for each item and section can be found down in the description, along with links to all of my social media. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter to keep up to date with what I'm up to. And do you have some Christmas septums just burning a hole in your pocket? Well, look no further. Head over to my merch store and pick up something cool like this Elder Scrolls blanket, or even maybe this brand new Daedric Smoke Skooma Worship Camel long sleeve shirt. There are blankets, cushions, hoodies, beanies, hats, stickers, all kinds of stuff. So be sure to check it out, help the channel out, and you'll also get something cool in return. So while we do have a lot to cover in this video, before we actually get started, I have one major suggestion. As to finish all these quests, we will need to catch at least one of every single new fish in the game, which will take hours and hours of your precious time to complete with a fishing rod. But luckily for you, I do have a video that shows you how to get all 21 of the new fish within minutes without a fishing rod, in which I also cover how to breed the fish so that you have an endless supply of them, and honestly, it will save you hours and hours of your precious life. So 100% watch that video. It is linked above, and it will allow you to get all of the items on this list probably 80 to 90% faster than you would if you used a fishing rod to catch all the fish for the quests. So now, without further ado, let's get fishing. So the first time we pick up a fishing rod and start fishing at any of the fishing spots around Skyrim, we'll get a quest called Angler Acquaintances, for which we'll need to head to the Rift and Fishery. There are two NPCs to give fishing quests: Swims in Deep Water and Viriya. We'll start with Swims in Deep Water. The first quest he will give us is called Catch of the Day, in which we need to collect 4 specific fish: a carp, a glassfish, a goldfish, and a pogfish, because, you know, Twitch. Again, see my quick fish video to get them all in minutes and save yourself hours. I'm not kidding. Some of these fish take hours to catch with a fishing rod. But anyway, finish that quest. The next quest, Swims in Deep Water, will give us is called Caught in the Rain, from which we actually get 2 items on this list. The first thing we need to do is head to the fishing supplies east of Gearman's Hall, where here we will actually have to fish with a rod. Now, the first time you cast out, the first thing you will catch is the Lucky Fishing Hat, which we needed to do for the quest. But before we take a look at it, we'll finish the rest of the quest first, as there is something specific we need to do to actually keep the fishing hat. So now on with the quest, and like the previous quest, we will need to collect 4 specific fish: the catfish, the pearlfish, the pygmy sunfish, that little bastard, and the spadefish. Again, see my quick fish guide to collect all of them faster than Ulfric killed High King Torek. Once we've got those pesky rainy weather flappers, let's head back to Swims in Deep Water. Now, when we talk to him, he will say, "Hey, did you find my lucky fishing hat?" And you need to say, "No. No, I didn't." Just lie to him. This is the only way that you can keep the lucky fishing hat for yourself, as it cannot be pickpocketed off him later, and if you kill him, he's not carrying it. So say no to finding the fishing hat, then you keep it, and then also when you finish the quest, regardless of which option you chose, he will give you an Argonian Fishing Rod, which isn't technically unique, but we will look at this also in a minute. But first, let's check out the lucky fishing hat. It is a clothing item and therefore provides no protection and has an armor rating of 0. It, of course, goes on your head because it's a hat. Strange that. It has a weight of 0.5, so much like the sun, it is quite light. It has a value of 1, so like Dogecoin, it's basically worthless, and it cannot be upgraded at all. And its enchantment, when worn, rainstorms will occur while you are fishing at temperate lakes and streams. So it will not create rainstorms if you are fishing in frozen waters or in caves, or if you're just not fishing at all, only at temperate lakes and streams. Now I will say that further into this video there is a ring on the list that has the same enchantment, it has the same effect as this hat. So if you have already turned in the lucky fishing hat who swims in deep water, don't worry your pretty little head, it's fine. Although you will never need to fish in the rain if you watch my quick fish guide, because my fast collection method does not rely on weather conditions, unlike doing it the standard way, fishing with a rod, which is about 100 times slower. Now there isn't much to say about the lucky fishing hat other than it is probably the ugliest hat ever made, and it does share the same appearance with the standard fishing hat added into the game with the same fishing update. For me, it's much more of a unique collectible piece than a practical piece. It's straight into my player home, never to be seen again. And in regards to lore, I can find absolutely no lore about a lucky fishing hat. The closest thing I can find is Fisher Folk Workwear costume from ESO. That was a daily login reward from the 21st of July 2019. Although in appearance this does not resemble the lucky fishing hat in Skyrim at all, and it also has no effects, let alone one that conjures precipitation. So it would seem this lucky fishing hat is fairly alone and unique within the Elder Scrolls universe. And come to think of it, swims in deep water, probably threw it in the lake because it's trash, but it's ours now. On to the next reward for this same quest, which is the Argonian Fishing Rod. Before we take a look at it, it's worth mentioning that this item isn't technically unique, as while this quest is the only way to be given one or find one, once you do complete the quest, you can actually make them at a forge with blacksmithing, so technically you can make as many as you want. But with that said, let's check out its stats. The Argonian Fishing Rod. It is actually labeled as a one-handed sword, which plays a part in all of its stats basically. So it has an abysmal base damage of 4, and given the iron sword has a base damage of 7, this is considerably worse than the lowest form of sword. Although it does outrank the meme base damage of the wooden sword, which sits at 2, along with the weaponized knife and fork, which are even worse with the base damage of 1. So along with those kind of items, the Argonian Fishing Rod is not really meant to be used as an actual weapon. It has a swing speed of 1, along with all other one-handed swords. Now its base damage and its swing speed combine to give us a base damage per second of 4. Now, despite it looking longer than all other one-handed swords, it actually has a reach of 1, which again is the same as all other one-handed swords. It has a weight of 3.5, which is incredibly light for its weapon class, but then again, it's not exactly a classic example of a sword. It has a value of 55 and it cannot be upgraded. Now, its enchantment, it greatly improves the chance of catching large fish when fishing. Now, large fish are any fish that are considered food, so that would be the angler, the vampire fish, the pogfish, the dire fish, the catfish, the carp, the brook bass, the tripod spider fish, the glass catfish, the scorpion fish, the cod, the arctic grayling, and the arctic char. So if you want to suffer and actually catch these fish with a rod, then this is the rod for you. Now, aesthetically, the rod has a very unique Argonian motif to it. The end of the handle appears to be a 4-pronged spearhead, so the rod may also be used for spearfishing, it seems. While the top of the handle bears the classic Aztec lizard art style seen in Argonian culture throughout Blackmarsh, primarily experienced through the Elder Scrolls Online. Now, the reel is engraved with a circle comprised of tiny little fish, and there are 3 red feathers hanging off of it as well. Possibly Argonian feathers, or maybe the feathers of the dreaded sea drake, which you can learn more about in my 10 rare Elder Scrolls creatures video. Rather interestingly, the end of the fishing rod has a jagged metal tip, once again suggesting that it is to be used for spearfishing at both ends, as well as a conventional fishing rod. Much like a sushi merchant, this rod appears to be a fisher's worst enemy. Overall, a lovely design. Now, in regards to lore, I was unable to find anything about an Argonian fishing rod. I even went to Blackmarsh in the Elder Scrolls Online, and the Argonians there use the same fishing rod that everyone else does, the plain old boring bamboo stick, which is actually the same aesthetic as another rod that we will be seeing in this video, but we'll save that for later, obviously. So it would seem that this Argonian fishing rod is truly a special gift from swims in deep water that isn't seen anywhere else within the observable Elder Scrolls universe. For now, Swims in Deep Water won't give us any more quests until we have progressed further with Viriya's fishing questline. So naturally, given these circumstances, we will now need to head to Viriya and see what she has for us. We can find her walking around the docks of the Riften Fishery during the day. The first quest that she will give us is called In a Pinch, for which we will need to get a juvenile mud crab that can be fished up with a rod and also found in a few places throughout Skyrim. Again, see my quick fish video for a full guide for those. They are quite small, so be sure to keep your eyes like a banana, peeled, and your ankles armored. Once you've finished that mission, the next quest Viriya will give us is called Clear-Headed, from which we will get a unique item on this list. So first thing we need to do is get a glass fish. Again, see my quick fish video to save hours of your life getting it. Once we have the glass catfish, we need to head to Falkreath and hand it over to the alchemist of the city, Zarya. She will then request that we hand over an invisibility potion to one of the city's guard and tell them that it is skooma. This particular guard has been up to no good and drinking all of the skooma in the city that has been seized from citizens and criminals. So naturally, he will think it's skooma, take a big swig, turn him invisible, and then he freaks out. Kind of like that show Scared Straight or whatever it was called. Once this is done, all we need to do is head back to Zarya and she will thank us by handing over a unique artifact called the Ring of Surroundings. Now that we have it, let's check it out. The Ring of Surroundings. It is of course a ring, so it goes on your finger. Who would have thought? It has a weight of 0.25, which is entirely standard for the weight of a ring in Skyrim. It has a value of 1,554, which is exceptionally high, although of course, given it is an ancient artifact, I doubt you will want to be selling it. And its enchantment, sneaking, is 20% better. Quite a simple yet powerful little ring for you sneaky folk out there. Now, all this enchantment means is that you are 20% harder to detect while sneaking, which has very obvious uses. If you want to sneak around, slap this on and you'll have, well, a 20% easier time doing so. What is particularly appealing about this ring is that the enchantment is quite potent, yet the ring can be acquired really early on in the game, which I actually love. It's very akin to Morrowind. You know where to find an artifact, you can go and grab it whenever. You'll probably get killed on the way, but you can go and grab it. Now, not only can you get this thing early on, but it is super easy to get, making its acquisition a great starting point for any sneak builds, aka all builds. Now, let's talk about the lore of the Ring of Surroundings. Little is known of this prize, its origins undetermined, and its associations unknown. In lore, it is said to lend its wearer the ability to blend in with their surroundings. Now, it first appeared within the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, in which, rather interestingly, 2 of them can actually be acquired. One as a reward from Larius Varro at Moonmoth Legion Fort, as a reward for wiping out the Camona Tong's presence in Balmora, and the second one can be found in a small locked chest at the Dren Plantation, which is the headquarters of the Camona Tong Kingpin Orvis Dren. So it would seem there are at least 2 of these in existence. Now, in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, the Ring of Surroundings would grant the wearer 20 to 30% chameleon for 30 seconds. Now, interestingly, chameleon in the Elder Scrolls 3 was just like invisibility, but the effect would not end when you interacted with objects or attacked someone or something. So essentially what it did is make your character 20 to 30% harder to detect for 30 seconds, which is exactly what it does here in the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. However, here, now, it is a constant effect. I really would have loved it if they added a chameleon effect as well, just to really hammer down the Morrowind nostalgia, but honestly, the items in this list does enough of that. Nonetheless, it is still an interesting item with great and simple utility. Now, as we can see, the appearance of the ring across the two games isn't very similar apart from a yellow coloring in the gemstones. Not the best job of physical consistency, but it could definitely be worse. Overall, a really cool item to add to your collection. Now we will be heading back to Viriya to continue on our journey. The next mission she will give us is called Heart of Gold. It's quite simple, we just need to collect a goldfish, again see my quick fish guide to save yourself an abundance of pain. Once you do get a goldfish, we will need to take it to Mila Valentia in Whiterun. Then just follow her to the trough of water in which she places her new best friend. Then back to Viriya. Upon talking to her, she will give us our next quest called No Contest, which involves our next unique item. We'll need to head to Morthal and find this old-ass fisherman called Brutius, who apparently wants to compete with us in a fishing contest. After speaking to him, we'll need to head into the deep marshes of Hjalmark and wait for Brutius to arrive at the fishing supplies. Once he does though, it is all a ruse, and he will attack us, along with two of his pals that ambush us from behind. Smash these buffoons into the besotted soil of the rotting mire and be done with their fake fishing contest. Once they have been felled, we'll need to read Brutius's journal, in which we will discover that he was fishing here and lost his ring. Sounds like he wasn't fishing, but he was fish-ring. So naturally, we'll need to cast out a line and see if we can pull it up ourselves. And of course we can, nice and quick. The Warlock's Ring, yet another classic from Elder Scrolls lore. So now that we have this ancient artifact, let's check it out. The Warlock's Ring, it of course goes on your finger. It has a weight of 0.25, which is totally normal for rings within Skyrim. It has a value of 1392, which once again is quite high and mighty within Skyrim, but this ring is most certainly not for selling. And its extremely beefy enchantment. Blocking creates a ward against spells for 25 points. Your health regenerates 30% faster, and you also move 5% faster. Now, the increased movement speed is self-explanatory. Your character literally runs 5% faster, and your health regenerating 30% faster is huge. It won't shine in specific moments as it's a slow burn effect, but it could make a huge difference across your entire playthrough if you were to use such a ring. Now, the third enchantment, blocking creates a ward for 25 points. This is very interesting indeed, as when you wear a ring and block, it creates a ward which will protect you from all types of incoming damaging magic, including dragon shouts. And this works when you have a shield and when you block just using a weapon too. It is the same effect of Spellbreaker, but now you can use whatever shield you want, or not use a shield at all. Although the ward created by the Warlock's Ring is half as powerful as the one that Spellbreaker creates. But if you want an even beefier shield, use Spellbreaker and the Warlock's Ring. Double ward. See what your spell-chucking foes have to say about that. Now, let's briefly talk about its lore and its past appearances in other Elder Scrolls games. While the origin of the Warlock's Ring is unknown, it may have been created by the old Mary god ancestor Siribane, also known as the Warlock's god, the Apprentice's god, and the youngest of the Eight, which is in reference to the Altmeri pantheon of 8 divines. Legend has it that Siribane used the Warlock's Ring in aiding Bendu Olo in the fall of the Slode. It is said that through judicious use of the Warlock's Ring, Siribane saved many lives from the scourge of the Slode-created Thracian Plague. Siribane is notable for other feats like the discovery of an alchemy alloy called frog metal, which sounds like a genre of music created by Daniele Sestigali, Frog Nation, bullish on Time Wonderland. Now, this frog metal could be forged into armor that would prevent its wearer from sinking and drowning if they found themselves fallen overboard and into the sea. It is also believed that he taught the Altmer to thread silver extremely thin and lustrous for use in jewelry, and magical pendants. But most importantly for this video, it is said that the Warlock's Ring will always truly belong to Siribane. So while throughout the ages it has changed many hands and helped many heroes and villains, it never stays within their possession for long. This mythological ownership of the Warlock's Ring is what makes me believe it may have been crafted or kabbalistically created by Siribane, but that is of course pure speculation on my part. Also, rather intriguingly, on the Psijic Order's island of Artaeum, a statue of Siribane can be found, which is what you've been seeing for the last few minutes. But if we look very closely at his hand, he is in fact wearing the Warlock's Ring and presenting it proudly. In this depiction, the Warlock's Ring bears the same physicality it did in the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, which at the time of this statue's creation within the Elder Scrolls Online, the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind was the most recent depiction of the Warlock's Ring. But we will see more of that very soon, as now let's talk about the Warlock's Ring appearances in previous Elder Scrolls games. Amazingly, the Warlock's Ring first appeared within the Elder Scrolls Arena, which is sometimes referred to as the Elder Scrolls 1 Arena, but at the time of its release it was just Elder Scrolls Arena, because they didn't know there was going to be a second one. A game so old that its items didn't even have images within the inventory. So therefore, there's literally no art asset that was ever created for the Warlock's Ring within the Elder Scrolls Arena. So guess what, I can't show you what it looks like, because it doesn't look like anything in that game. Now in Arena, it can be discovered in either Morrowind or elsewhere, which is a vague description I know, but having just played a few hours of Arena yesterday, I don't even know how to get to Morrowind or elsewhere, so I cannot enlighten you further unfortunately. Interestingly, all the way back in the Elder Scrolls Arena, the Warlock's Ring would increase your run speed, heal you passively, and reflect spells back at their caster. Almost exactly the same way it performs here in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Now the Warlock's Ring then appeared within the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall. Physically, it looks very different to what we see here today, appearing to have a gold band studded with red gems and a devilish pale green skull face. The exact method of obtaining the Warlock's Ring in the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall is a bit all over the place, as it can be offered as a reward for many unrelated quests and also has several bugs that prevent it from being obtained sometimes. So you know, it's good to know that Bethesda's always been Bethesda, but given its random nature, I'll spare you from that lore-irrelevant list of acquisition methods. Just random quests, basically. Now, staying true to its enchantment previously, when worn in Daggerfall, it will increase your run speed, and when used, it heals the wearer and also casts Shalador's Mirror, which is of course a spell reflection effect. So far, so good in regards to consistency. The next game that the Warlock's Ring was seen in was the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. It can be found in the possession of a rogue Dunmer sorcerer, Vindamia Drethan, who hides in a remote cave called Ashir Badon, found in the Azura's Coast region. Now within the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, the Warlock's Ring has a cast when used enchantment, so it slots like a spell and you actively have to use it. It will provide a 10 to 20% spell reflect barrier for 30 seconds and increases your speed by 10 to 20% for 30 seconds as well, notably missing its health regeneration effect. And the fact that the effects that it does have aren't constant effects, well, it makes it less interesting than the other games that it is seen in. Now physically, the Warlock's Ring has taken a more stern and rigid appearance, taking on its now prominent red and dark metal coloring. This is the same appearance that the Warlock's Ring has on the statue of Siribane from the Elder Scrolls Online that we saw earlier. But that was the last time that this artifact had been seen in any previous game when this Elder Scrolls Online content came out when the statue appeared, so that makes sense that it looks like the one from Morrowind. Now interestingly, the next game this ring appeared in was actually the Elder Scrolls Blades, which I am still waiting to come to PC, as was promised in 2018. As of right this second when I'm recording this, it has been 1,304 days since the 2018 Bethesda E3 showcase, where they showed the Elder Scrolls Blades and said it was coming to PC. It's been over 3.5 years, and here I sit, Todd. I am waiting, patiently. Now, rather uninterestingly, the Warlock's Ring can be acquired by sheer luck as treasure from legendary chests, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, are primarily acquired by purchasing them in the game store with real money. So instead of doing that, go to my merch store and pick up some cool stuff that's real. However, within the Elder Scrolls Blades, the Warlock's Ring is a rather powerful ring and bears similar enchantments to Morrowind, increasing the wearer's attack speed by 19%, which in a competitive multiplayer game like Blades, that is insane. And it also reflects a portion of harmful spells of all schools back at their caster, again, hugely powerful. Now, much like Morrowind, it does not restore health to the wearer. Now, physically, in the Elder Scrolls Blades, it appears to have been modified/modernized, re-envisioned from the Morrowind stylization, giving it some more character and making it look a bit less blocky. Now, this new appearance in Blades seems to be the one and very same that has been used right here within the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Although the metal coloration has gone from gold seen in Blades back to a more grey alloy, as previously seen in Morrowind, which I personally prefer. So the Warlock's Ring, there's quite a lot of stuff going on with it there, and it's good to see that it has almost fully sustained its enchantment, or at least the general gist of its powers, throughout 27 years of gaming, all the way back from the Elder Scrolls Arena to now in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. So that's pretty dang neat. Unlike my tax filing system, that is not neat. Now onto our next item. Once we return to Viriya, she will give us a quest called Crustacean Extermination. For this mission, we will need to head to a fishing shack found on the coast to the northwest of Dawnstar, and once here we need to take out about 1 billion or so angry jumping mud crabs. Once that whole situation has been dealt with, we will head back to Viriya and complete the quest. Upon doing so, she will give us an Alik'ri Fishing Rod. Before we take a look at it, it's worth noting that much like the Argonian Fishing Rod, this can be crafted at a blacksmith's forge, so it's technically not unique, but the production of more is in your hands. So this quest is the only way to find one/be given one in-game by forces beyond yourself. So now let's take a look at its stats. The Alik'ri Fishing Rod has a base damage of 4, which is the same as the Argonian Fishing Rod, which, as we discussed in depth, is absolutely terrible. It has a swing speed of 1, like all one-handed swords, which it is classed as for some reason. These two stats give us a base damage per second of 4. It has a reach of 1, which is the same as a normal one-handed sword. It has a weight of 2, so it is lighter than the Argonian Fishing Rod, which isn't surprising given it's literally just a stick. Now, for whatever reason, it is worth 20 gold more than the Argonian Fishing Rod, with a total value of 75, and it cannot be upgraded. And finally, its enchantment. It greatly improves the chance of catching small fish when used for fishing. So the Alik'ri Fishing Rod's enchantment lies in the same vein as the Argonian Fishing Rod, however that is for big fish and this one is for small fish, which in my opinion is much more useful as big fish are used for food. I mean, honestly, no one really eats food in Skyrim, while the small fish are used for alchemy, so they have much more practical value in game, both in terms of potions and making potions just for money. So the small fish include angelfish, angler larvae, glassfish, goldfish, lyre-tail antheas, pearlfish, pygmy sunfish, spadefish. So if you do want to catch some fish to be ground up and used in a potion, this Alik'ri Rod is the one for you. Or, once again, you can watch my quick fish video and never have to fish again while also having an infinite supply of all fish. Yeah, you know, the choice is yours. Now, in regards to aesthetic, this really isn't impressive at all. It's a super primitive rod with no reel, so I assume it is meant for some kind of like fly fishing rod where you just yank it back when the fish bites on the bait, which I guess would make sense if you're catching small fish. It is quite simply and literally a piece of bamboo, which, as we saw earlier, is the fishing rods that everyone, including you the player, use within the Elder Scrolls Online. Now, in regards to lore, I was unable to find any reference to the Alik'ri people, those being the Redguards, having any special type of fishing rod. There's no such thing as an Alik'ri fishing rod in any previous lore. There is literally no reference to them anywhere within the Elder Scrolls apart from here in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. So much like the Argonian Fishing Rod, this appears to be an invention made up for this piece of anniversary content. For now though, we will be moving on to our next item. And just to mix it up and get this out of the way, we'll be heading back to Swims in Deep Water. For now, he will give us the remaining quests, of which there are 3. They are more fishing challenges like before, so again, and as always, see my quick fish guide to get all of the fish within like 5-10 minutes and save yourself hours of faffing around with a fishing rod trying to catch a stupid pygmy sunfish or whatever. So the first mission of which we get is called Frozen Fish, for which we will need to acquire 4 specific fish only found in freezing cold areas, those being the angler larvae, the Arctic char, the Arctic grayling, and the cod. The next quest is called The Darkest Depths, for which we need to catch 4 specific fish only found within caves, those being the direfish, the glass catfish, the tripod spiderfish, and the vampire fish. And the final quest Swims in Deep Water will give us is called Fishing Legend, in which we need to catch 4 specific and rather rare fish, those being the angelfish, the angler, the lyre-tail anthias, and the scorpion fish. Once we return to him and hand in this final collection of fish for his 5th and final fishing challenge, he will reward us with the Fang of Haynekhtnamet. Oh yes, I've practiced saying that. So now that we have this ancient unique artifact, let's take a look at it, shall we? The Fang of Haynekhtnamet. It has a base damage of 13, which is actually the highest base damage of any dagger in the game, including all of the DLCs and the Anniversary Edition content, so we are off to a good start. It has a swing speed of 1.3, which is standard for a dagger. Now this base damage and swing speed come together to deliver a staggering, or daggering in this case, base damage per second of 16.9. To no surprise, this is the highest base DPS of any and all daggers within the game. It has a reach of 0.7, again standard for a dagger within Skyrim. It has a weight of 6.5, which makes it one of the heaviest daggers in the game, as it is on par with the Dragon Bone dagger. But being the heaviest dagger in Skyrim doesn't really mean much, as it's still super light when compared to most other weapons. It's like being the heaviest feather. Oh no, how am I going to carry it? Now it also has a value of 1,446, but you will not want to be selling this, especially after we discuss its lore, which is actually really cool. Now it can be upgraded with Dragonbone, which requires the Arcane Blacksmithing perk to do so, and its enchantment. The target takes 25 points of shock damage and half as much magicka damage. The enchantment is actually quite powerful. Of course, you can always make stronger ones as the player, but as far as set enchantments go within the game, this one is up there. Handy against those magically inclined enemies, of course, with the damage to magicka, and well, just its general high damage all round. The dagger also has an exceedingly unusual amount of enchantment uses, being able to strike 750 times before it requires recharging, easily making its enchantment 20, 30, or even 50 times more durable and long-lasting than most other enchanted weapons. So all round, as far as unique items go, especially in the case of daggers, this is one of the most powerful and useful items within the game. And it's not that hard to get if you watch my quick fish guide. Now physically, it most certainly has that Argonian motif that we see in the Elder Scrolls Online applied to it, which of course was heavily influenced by native Central and Southern American cultures like the Aztecs, Inca, and Maya. It also appears to be made of bone, which, spoiler alert, it is. I think. Is a tooth a bone? Let's just say yes, but we'll learn all about that in a minute when we get onto its lore. Now this will also reveal its Argonian stylizations. In fact, you know what, let's get to the lore right now. The Fang of Haynekhtnamet is shrouded in fabled legend. It is the literal fang of a beast known as Haynekhtnamet that has been fashioned into a dagger. Deep within the bowels and dankest mires of Shadowfen in Blackmarsh, there are great reptilian beasts known as Wamasu. They are feared for their ferocity and are said to have lightning for blood. In combat, this mythos becomes very real, as Wamasu unleash a wide array of offensive strikes and abilities soaked in deathly electricity, dealing crippling shock damage to any they hit. Well, it is said that once a score of Nords encountered a mythical Wamasu named Haynekhtnamet. These Nords believed it to be a dragon, and so they fought Haynekhtnamet. The battle raged tirelessly for 7 days and 7 nights, until the beast was finally slain. One of the surviving Nords took one of Haynekhtnamet's fangs as a trophy, which was later fashioned into a dagger that mysteriously retains the fabled lightning powers of the mythical Wamasu. It is also thought that Haynekhtnamet is a name given to various Wamasu throughout history, rather than it being a singular beast. The thought being that Haynekhtnamet is a title, kind of like the King of England. The King of England dies, and then there's a new King of England. Well, the same concept with the Wamasu and Haynekhtnamet. Because of this, there are potentially more than one weapon fashioned from the potential Fangs of Haynekhtnamet. Although this lore diversion is due to the Elder Scrolls Online, in which one may encounter a Wamasu named Haynekhtnamet, who when killed drops a weapon called the Swamp Raider's Fang of Haynekhtnamet, resulting in there being a potentially endless source of these weapons. Although the version within the Elder Scrolls Online is heavily befouled and causes disease damage to anyone struck by it, missing that legendary lightning power of the Wamasu, so clearly it's not as cool or on track, or perhaps even a completely different weapon altogether. I personally like to believe that the story of Haynekhtnamet and the Nords is true, and there is only one real Fang of Haynekhtnamet. And then, stemming from this legendary tale, any, big dick Wamasu was given the title of Haynekhtnamet in reference to the original. But that is of course my headcanon. So now let's talk about this artifact in previous games. The Fang of Haynekhtnamet first appeared within the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, in which it can be found lying in an altered trough in the Shrine of Pitted Dreams within the 6th house base Mamaea. It is one of the best short blades within the game in regards to base damage, while also being enchanted with the highest shock damage enchantment of any weapon within the game, including all of the official plugins and expansions, making it the ultimate weapon for thieves and mages, being super lightweight and very powerful. Now physically, it just shares the same skin with the kite and daggers, so nothing special there, although the weapon itself, in terms of practicality, is special. It's also worth noting that here in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, it holds that legendary lightning within it. It does shock damage. Now the next game that it appeared in was the Elder Scrolls Online, but we've already spoken of that and it seems to be a different item altogether, as it doesn't deal shock damage, which makes me think it's not actually the same thing that we see in Morrowind and Skyrim. And then of course, we see it here within the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. So across all 3 games, it bears a very different appearance. In Morrowind, it just borrowed the kite and dagger model and texture. In the Elder Scrolls Online, it appears to be the standard Argonian style dagger, which looks like some kind of kukri. And then here within the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, it's my personal favorite, as it is unique and bears a rather lore-fitting look, assuming that the Nord who took the Fang from Haynekhtnamet gave it to an Argonian to fashion it into a dagger, given it bears a classically Argonian cultural motif. Or it could be that the Nord crafted it himself with a traditional Argonian art style as a nod to the region and the beast that the Fang came from. So overall, the Fang of Haynekhtnamet is a super cool weapon with a nice backstory, potentially lessened by its mass production in the Elder Scrolls Online, but rectified with my headcanon, which sadly isn't actually canon, but I do my best. And with that, we can all pray and hope that I and you never have to say Haynekhtnamet ever again. Now onto our next item. For this, we will be heading back to Viriya and finishing off the rest of her quest line. The next quest she will give us is called Tusked Terror. For this, we'll need to head to Fangtusk's feeding grounds, found to the northeast of Windhelm at the mouth of the White River. Once here, all we need do is place an Arctic Greyling on the feeding grounds, and this will summon the Tusked Terror Fangtusk from the icy northern waters. Slay him as quickly as you can, as he is pretty feisty and has the ability to drain its foe's life during combat. And well, during this fight, we are its foe. The reason that it has this ability, well, we'll learn that in a second. So once Fangtusk has been defeated, on his corpse we can find the artifact known as the Vampiric Ring, along with some vampire dust and vampire clothes. Now it turns out that Fangtusk here ate a vampire who wore this ring, leading to Fangtusk gaining the magical life-absorbing properties of the Vampiric Ring. So once we've collected our new unique item, we need to head to Windhelm and fully complete the quest by speaking to the Steward of Windhelm, who will also give us a reward with a golden bounty for the deed. We just need to finish that off so we can continue on the quest line later. So now that we have the Vampiric Ring and we've finished the quest, let's take a look at it. The Vampiric Ring. It, of course, goes on your finger. It has a weight of 0.25, completely standard ring weight. It has a rather oddly low value of 400, but that is fairly irrelevant as you won't want to sell this beautiful artifact regardless of its value. And its enchantment. It allows you to cast the spell Drain Life. Now this spell, Drain Life, sadly isn't very impressive, absorbing 3 points of health from your target every second. It can be dual wielded and might have some perks that increase its damage, but even then it's still not great. It could be somewhat useful early on in the game, you know, when you have a low amount of health, your enemies have a low amount of health, but I mean even like late early game, mid game, and especially late game, absorbing 3 points of health from your opponent every second, it really isn't going to do much at all. Your enemy might feel a bit of a tickle, but that's about it. This spell, Drain Life, is not to be confused with the vampire ability, Vampiric Drain. Drain Life, while it sounds super basic and vanilla, is in fact a completely new spell specific to the Vampiric Ring. You can also give this ring to your companions, which will give them the ability to use this spell also. So now let's touch on its lore and previous game appearances, both of which will be rather brief. In Yagrum Bagan's Tamrielic lore, the Vampiric Ring is described as one of the more deadly and rare artifacts in Tamriel, said to have the power to steal its victim's life force and bestow it to the wearer. The origins of the Vampiric Ring are not known, although it is believed to be very old, as many elders speak of its nefarious creation in Morrowind long ago by a cult of vampire followers. Sightings of the Vampiric Ring are extremely rare, and is only seen every few hundred cycles of the moons, Massa and Secunda. And of course, I guess the Dark Moon, the third moon, but you know, let's not get into that now. Now, the Vampiric Ring first appeared within the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, being carried by the living dead, a unique enemy known as the Skeleton War Wizard. How's that for a title? In Morrowind, the ring's enchantment seemed to be stronger, absorbing 20 to 30 points of both health and stamina, although this effect was over 10 seconds. So even then, it's not too far off from what we see here in Skyrim. Although I think this enchantment in Morrowind is better because you only have to cast it once and then you can do other stuff with your hands for 10 seconds. Whereas here in Skyrim, you need to just constantly cast the spell. But even with that, the Vampiric Ring is one of the most damaging rings in the game of Morrowind. Even more damaging than the Xbox 360 Red Ring of Death, although I managed to completely avoid getting one of those. Now, physically, the Vampiric Ring has the same classic Morrowind look, the long rectangular face comprised of different shades of crimson. Its appearance within the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim is the same reimagining of this Morrowind shape that the Warlock's ring underwent, looking looking very similar in color too, although the Vampiric Ring is notably darker, with a cursed black metal band with glimmers of dark blood red within it. All in all, it's always nice to see an old artifact come back. It's got a cool effect, but the lackluster magnitude makes it fairly asinine for gameplay uses beyond the very early stages of the game. Nonetheless, it's definitely going into my ring collection. Now, once we return to our beloved Viriya for yet another fishing mission, she will hand us a quest called Private Lessons, for which we will need to head to Markarth, the capital city of the Reach. Once here, we need to locate a woman named Lynea, who can be found within the Silverblood Inn. Once located, we just need to talk to her about her private fishing lessons, and then meet her down by the Warrens, where, on a petite pier, we can find some fishing supplies. All we need to do is fish a few times while she's standing next to us, and this somehow transfers our amazing fishing skills onto this Lynea, who is apparently a sponge for knowledge. Once this objective is complete, she will thank us and hand us our next unique item, Lynea's Amulet of Dibella. So now that we have it, let's take a look at it. Lynea's Amulet of Dibella. It is of course a necklace, so it goes on your neck. It has a weight of 1, which is the same as a normal Amulet of Dibella, or any amulet to a divine for that matter. It has a value of 475, which is significantly higher than the standard Amulet of Dibella, which has a value of 20 gold. And its enchantment increases your speechcraft by 15 points, along with increasing your stamina by 40 points. Now, this enchantment has the same 15 plus to speechcraft that the normal Amulet of Dibella has, but this unique version adds 40 stamina, which is unique to this piece. Now, this enchantment as a whole isn't awful by any means, and the 40 plus to stamina is quite hefty. But if you want a good stamina boost, there are most certainly better options, like the Locket of St. Jib, which increases your stamina by 50 points, along with increasing your carry weight by 50 points, and it also has an armor rating. If you've never heard of the Locket of St. Jib, I'm not surprised, but be sure to check out my guide for it, as it's really hard to get. But of course, it will be really easy if you watch my video. It'll either be linked above, I don't know if I've run out of cards yet, or you can just search my channel for the Locket of St. Jib. Anyway, point being, Lynea's Amulet of Dibella is better than the standard version, but even then it's nothing too special, and there are better necklaces out there for you. Now, there is also no lore and no previous game appearances for this item, so we'll skip over that like me skipping over my emails from my accountant. But before we move on though, it is kind of funny, as Dibella is the goddess of love and, you know, love making, so the fact that Lynea's Amulet of Dibella boosts one's stamina, well, it means you can last longer in the sack, so haha, good one. Now onto our next item. Of course, we'll head back to Viriya and ask her about more fishing missions. The next quest she will give us is called Spirits Away. For this, we'll need to head into the Reach and fish up Risud's 3 lost bottles of aged Flynn. Just head to the quest marker where we'll find fishing supplies. Within a minute or two, we will fish up these lost aged Flynn bottles. Once we get them, all we need to do now is track down Risud and hand them back to him. Now, this can actually be quite difficult because he's part of the traveling Khajiit caravan. So if you fast travel near where he is on the map, by the time you get there, he's on the other side of Skyrim. So my suggestion is to just do it the old-fashioned way and run directly to him. This might take a minute or two, but it is by far the simplest and most reliable way to find him. Now, there also seems to be some kind of issue where Risud walks in the ground. The first time I did this quest, he was actually completely under the road and I had to use console commands to get to him. So I don't know if he's had too much skooma, I don't know if he's not aging well like he's Flynn, something's up, but just keep that in mind. So once you do manage to find this plain walking Risud, give him the missing aged Flynn and he will reward us with an ancient artifact known as the Ring of Khajiit. So now that we have it, let's take a look at it. The Ring of Khajiit It of course goes on your finger, with it being a ring and all. It has a weight of 0.25, which is pretty normal for a ring. It has a value of 650, which is a fairly substandard price, especially for an artifact. But this will be added to your collection, and I highly doubt you will want to sell it. And its enchantment. You move 10% faster, and it also allows you to cast the spell Hide. Now, the moving 10% faster is pretty self-explanatory, but the spell Hide that we can now cast is an ultra low-cost invisibility spell that lasts for 15 seconds. Normally, invisibility lasts twice as long, but it costs 10 times as much magicka, so this Hide spell is 5 times more cost-effective for the time that you get to be invisible for. That sentence kind of evolved as I spoke it. So it is pretty handy, especially for low-level characters. Now, rather interestingly, the item model for the Ring of Khajiit has actually been in Skyrim's game files since its initial release in 2011. That's why you might notice that the model and texture quality of the ring seem notably lesser than the other items in this video. Well, the reason being that, yeah, it was made a decade ago, whereas all the other items have been made much more recently. Why they never ended up putting it in the game in the first place, well, who knows. Now, let's talk about the lore behind this ring and also its appearances in other Elder Scrolls games. Interestingly, the Ring of the Khajiit is a Daedric artifact associated with both the Daedric Prince Mephala and the Daedric Prince Viriya. Now, the exact purpose and time of its creation are not known, but it was made famous when the purring liar, the trickster god, the footpad, the cat who walks, the cat king of thieves, Rajin, stole the ring from Mephala's arm. In the same way Rajin made the Ring of Khajiit famous, the Ring of Khajiit made Rajin famous, as he used and abused its power to become the most renowned burglar of all time, later becoming the thief god of the Khajiiti people. It is even said that Rajin the Purring Liar stole a tattoo from the neck of Empress Kintira as she slept. Of course, abusing its power all too freely, eventually the Ring of Khajiit abandoned Rajin and left him exposed to his enemies, leading to his demise. Across the many years after this, the Ring of Khajiit has found its way into the possession of many heroes and villains. It first appeared within the Elder Scrolls Arena, a game in which rings didn't even have a model or inventory icon, so I can't show it to you because it physically does not exist within the game apart from being like a piece of code. Now, like all artifacts in Arena, it is just found randomly within either Hammerfell, High Rock, or Valenwood. In this game, it would make the wearer invisible. It would cast a spell called Sanctuary, which makes enemies less likely to notice you while sneaking, and it also fortified the speed attribute, of course, making your character move faster. Very similar to what it does here in Skyrim. After this, it then appeared within the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall, in which it can be acquired by completing Meridia's Daedric quest. When used, it makes the wearer invisible and has a constant effect known as the Feat of Notorgo, which fortifies speed, again carrying on its traditional magical themes. Physically, it is a prismatic band, the likes of which change dramatically in future games. The Ring of Khajiit then appeared within the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, in which it can be acquired by completing Mephala's quest. As you may have noticed, this is when the items seemed to go from Meridia's artifact to Mephala's artifact. The reason for this is unknown. Now, in Morrowind, the Ring of Khajiit would make you invisible for 30 seconds and fortify your speed by 10 to 20 points for 30 seconds as well when used, holding true to its original magical nature. Now, the appearance of the ring changed drastically and took on a more classic Morrowind artifact ring shape, the big, long rectangle. Not only did the shape change, but the coloration also diverges heavily as well, taking on a more white alloy. Well, actually an almost purely white alloy with a massive greenish-yellow gemstone. The ring then appeared within the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, where it could be obtained by completing Meridia's quest, which is interesting because now it's gone back to being an artifact of Meridia. as I think it should be. Unlike in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, where for some reason it was an artifact belonging to Mephala, although in the lore it was stolen from Mephala, but maybe Mephala stole it from Viriya, so who knows. Now in Oblivion, the ring gave a constant effect of 35% chameleon, which just made you 35% more invisible and therefore harder to detect. If you think of invisibility as a scale, 0 being you normally and 100% being you are completely invisible, Chameleon was a spell that played with that range in between 0 and 100, so it made you 35% invisible and therefore 35% harder to detect. And along with this, it also fortifies the speed attribute by 10 points, naturally making your character run faster, once again keeping to its traditional lore-friendly magical properties and boons. Now physically, in Oblivion, the Ring of Khajiit has had quite the glow-up, bearing a golden band, a huge pink-purple gemstone cased beneath a massive amber gemstone at the front, becoming quite the bedazzled ornament to wield on one's finger. And of course, here within the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, the Ring of Khajiit looks like this, notable as being, I guess you could say, downgraded in terms of its visual ostentatiousness, bearing a weathered silver band and the same yellow or amber gemstone set on the forefront we saw in Oblivion. Now before we move on, it is worth noting that sometimes in ancient texts, the Ring of Khajiit is referred to as the Ring of Khajiiti. While the item itself never bears this name in game, for whatever reason it is sometimes referenced by this Ring of Khajiiti title. Overall, a very cool item and a great piece for any scaredy cats who don't want to be detected. Now onto our next collection of items. We will once again be returning to our beloved Viriya for yet another mission. Once we talk to her, the next quest she will give us is called the Ultimate Feast, for which we just need to cook up some specific meals and feed them to some hungry woman in solitude. Nothing difficult, nothing interesting. Once we head back to Viriya, the next mission she will give us is called Beneath Bronze Waters, from which we will be getting 3 items that we will be taking a look at. For this, we will need to head to Bronzewater Cave, which can be found in the heart of the Pale. Once here, we will find a journal on the ground. Upon reading it, we'll learn that these unfortunate adventurers before us were in search of the Dwarven Fishing Rod schematics, which apparently can be found in Irkngthand. So naturally, we'll need to make our jolly old way over there. Once here, we will need to head into the ruined tower. Then on the middle floor, we can find exactly what was said to be here, the Dwarven Fishing Rod schematics. Although be wary of enemies in here as there are many. So now that we have these schematics, we'll need to head to the city of Markarth and speak to the court wizard Calthsemo. After we give him the Dwarven Fishing Rod schematics, we will need to wait for 24 hours before talking to him again. Once one in-game day has passed, we can speak to Calthsemo again, and now he's had time to craft a Dwarven Fishing Rod for us, which he will give to us for free. And while we are not done with the mission yet, we will take a look at the Dwarven Fishing Rod now that we have it. So, the Dwarven Fishing Rod. It is classed as a one-handed sword like the other fishing rods. It has a base damage of 5, which is 1 point higher than the other 2 rods that we have seen so far. It has a swing speed of 1, which is on par with all other one-handed swords. Now, these 2 stats come together to provide a base damage per second of 5, which is an abysmal DPS for a one-handed sword, but it's no different to the other fishing rods. Well, I mean, it's 1 damage better, but it's still awful. It has a reach of 1, which is again standard. It has a weight of 6, which makes it the heaviest fishing rod out of the lot. It has a value of 110, which also makes it the most valuable fishing rod, and it cannot be upgraded. Now, its enchantment greatly improves the chance of catching items when fishing. Now this effect is actually super useful, and we will be using this very fishing rod for this very effect later on in the video. Now it can also be used to simply fish up more items if you wish to do this for gold or something like that. Also, the more items you can fish up faster, the more money you'll make from fishing up items, although I would imagine this is a very effective or fun method regardless of how many items you can come away with. Now, like other fishing rods we get from fishing quests, the Dwarven Fishing Rod can be crafted at a blacksmith's forge, so it's not actually a unique item, but the only way to actually get one from external game sources is through the quest that we just did. Physically, it is made up of that classic Dwemer metal, as you'd expect. The rod appears to be segmented, as if it is telescopic, which to be fair is a pretty good idea, provided of course that does not jeopardize the structural integrity of the rod itself. Probably a bad idea in real life, although this is fantasy, so doesn't matter. It is also equipped with a simple reel, and the whole unit is visually garnished with a familiar Art Deco Dwemer design. Now, I trudged through the lore high and low, and I could find absolutely no reference to the Dwemer fishing, let alone constructing a fishing rod. So it would seem that just as with the other rods, this fishing update has added, this Dwarven Fishing Rod is a new addition to the lore. With it being a fresh piece of content within the Elder Scrolls universe, it has of course not appeared within any previous Elder Scrolls games. But now that we have the Dwarven Fishing Rod, well, we'll be using it to finish off the quest and get our next 2 items. So once we have the rod in hand, we will need to head back to Bronze Water Cave and use the Dwarven Fishing Rod at the fishing spot here, where we will fish up the 2 Ethereum Dynamo cores. Once we have this pair of blue balls in our hands, we need to place one into each of the 2 Ethereum Dynamo actuators. Upon doing so, a disturbance will trigger within the waters not too far from us, and from the bubbling surface will arise a set of stairs with a chest atop it. Within this chest, we can find the Irkngthand War Axe of Freezing and the Irkngthand War Axe of Fire. 2 items of rather nostalgic interest that we will harp back on soon, but for now, let's touch on their stats. Firstly, the Irkngthand War Axe of Fire. It has a base damage of 13, which is the same as a honed Falmer War Axe, which sits between an Elven War Axe and a Glass War Axe in base damage. So it's nothing amazing, although it is 2 whole base damage above that of the standard Dwarven War Axes. It has a swing speed of 0.9, which is completely normal for a War Axe. Its base damage and swing speed come together to create a base damage per second of 11.7, which lands it in the same spot as the base damage did. It's okay. It has a weight of 16, which is the same as the Stalhrim and Glass War Axes, so its damage to weight ratio is actually bad. It weighs as much as axes that do more damage than it. It has a value of 699, which is a very funny number with a 9 added on the end. It can be upgraded with a Dwarven Metal Ingot, which will require that you have the Arcane Blacksmithing perk. And its enchantment burns the target for 20 points of fire damage. Targets on fire take extra damage. And its twin, the Irkngthand War Axe of Freezing. It has all of the exact same stats except for its value, which is 43 gold higher than its flaming brethren for whatever reason. And of course its enchantment is different. Targets take 20 points of frost damage to both health and stamina. Now it's worth noting that these items are technically not unique, as once you retrieve them, you will be able to craft unenchanted versions of the Irkngthand War Axes at any blacksmithing forge, so long as you have the Dwarven Smithing perk. So much like the fishing rods that we covered in the video, while you can make more of them, the method I showed you through the quest is the only way to get them from the game itself without you crafting them yourself. So these 2 axes, they are decent. They aren't amazing, they are most certainly nowhere near the best war axes in the game, but they are cool, and sometimes clout is better for your character than stats. But what is particularly interesting about these axes is their physical appearance. Within Skyrim, these skins are unique and vary completely from the standard Dwarven war axes within the game. However, this design might be ringing a bell to any of you lucky sods who played the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind Morrowind, as the model of these axes is almost an exact carbon copy of the Dwarven battle axe from Morrowind, which interestingly is the two-handed axe in Morrowind and not the one-handed axe like it is here in Skyrim. Now I have dug and was unable to find any real references to this style of axe within the lore, or as to why Irkngthand would be home to weapons with the exact same design of those from Vvardenfell. Although, with that said, Irkngthand is believed to have belonged to the Rorken clan, who famously made the mass exodus from Morrowind after the formation of the First Council. Legend has it they took their artifact Volendrung, which is actually a Dwarven artifact, by the way, not a Daedric artifact, and they threw it as far as they could, and they would call its landing place their new home. Volendrung allegedly flew across all of Tamriel and landed in what is now known as Hammerfell. And where does Hammerfell get its name? From Volendrung landing there. That's literally where the hammer fell. But, back to the point, if the Rorken clan did rule Irkngthand, then this might explain why a Morrowind style of axe can be found here. The thought being they left the now Dunmeri province and brought their designs with them across Tamriel as they headed for Hammerfell. So as far as lore goes, that is the only tangible connection that I can make between Morrowind and Irkngthand. But regardless of the reason, the return of a rather cool looking weapon is always welcome. Now once we've finished this quest, the beloved Viriya will no longer be in Riften, she's vanished. But do not fret, as at some point while we're running around Skyrim, the fabled courier will appear and hand us a hastily written letter from Viriya. Upon reading it, we will gain the quest Wavebreaker, for which we will need to head back to that abandoned fishing shack to the northwest of Dawnstar. Once here, we will need to mow through waves and waves of frenzied jumping mud crabs just as before, and then we have to battle it out against the Emperor Crab Guardian Spirit using the siege weapons to shatter his shell. I mean, all they really needed to bring was one furious Dunmer and a spear to finish the fight, but apparently they couldn't find any. But let's not harp on it too long, as this quest doesn't give any items, so kill the big snippy boy and then talk to the Jarl of Dawnstar to finish the quest. Now some days later, the fabled courier will return before our very eyes once more and hand us a letter from Viriya. When we read it, we will begin the quest called End of the Line. Get it? It's the end of the quest line, and it's a, fishing line pun. Now for this quest, we will need to collect some basic building materials. The quantity and materials are noted in the quest objectives, so once you get them all, take them to Viriya, who will have returned to Riften. Once we speak to her, she will thank us and ask us to meet her in the Riften Plaza a day later. So just wait an in-game day or two and then head over to the Riften Plaza, where we can find Viriya, who has set up her very own stall selling all things crabbish, minus the pubic hair infestation. She will thank us kindly and give us a reward, Viriya's Charm. So now that we have it, let's take a look at it. Viriya's Charm. It is an amulet, so of course it goes on your neck. It has a weight of 0.5 like most other amulets in Skyrim. It has a value of 944, which is lovely, but this item is most certainly not for selling. Because of this next part, its enchantment gives you constant water breathing and increases both the light armor skill and the heavy armor skill by 22 points. Now this necklace has obvious uses, namely the water breathing, which is usually an ephemeral effect given by spells, scrolls, and potions. But this charm grants it permanently so long as you keep it equipped. Now as far as I am aware, there is only one other guaranteed item in the game that does this, and that is the unique circlet of water breathing. I do have a guide for that if you want to check it out. But on top of the water breathing, Viriya's Charm fortifies both the light armor skill and the heavy armor skill by 22 points. What does that actually mean? Well, there are two other amulets in the game that provide armor. The Locket of St. Jib, which provides 5 light armor, and the Amulet of Articulation, which provides between 2 and 8 light armor. This is a leveled item, so the armor value depends on what level you acquire it at. Now these are cool and all, but Viriya's charm is cooler. As it fortifies, it increases both armor skills by 22 points. So whatever armor type you use, you'll get more armor rating from your already equipped armor, your gear, because this amulet boosts the skills themselves. It's a very handy and extremely powerful enchantment, especially those seeking to max out their damage reduction. Now physically, Viriya's charm is a whittled piece of driftwood with a crab motif carved into its face and painted with a kind of rustic off blue, the same an old fishing shack or old fishing boat might be. But do not let its clunky and weathered appearance fool you. This item is as big as the Emperor Crab Guardian Spirit. Also, when you equip Viriya's charm, this, I do believe, unique animation appears around your character, a kind of swarm of bubbles. So that's pretty cool. And finally, there is no lore for Viriya's charm. It has no appearances in previous Elder Scrolls games, but it sure is a welcome addition to the series, and it is OP. So now that we have finished all of the fishing quests that give unique or notable items, we will move on to the remaining 5 unique rings that all have a random and very small chance of being fished up anytime you fish with a fishing rod, sadly. Now, of course, if you are using my super best quick fish guide to get all your fish within minutes instead of hours, you won't actually be doing much fishing with a fishing rod. But for these items, you will have to. I would also highly recommend using the Dwarven Fishing Rod for this, as it greatly increases your chance of fishing up items instead of fish. Well, we don't want to catch fish, we want to catch some artifacts. Now, I caught 2 of these rings just by chance while fishing randomly, and then fished up the remaining 3 with the Dwarven Fishing Rod while actively trying to get these items. I will say that it took several hours of dedicated fishing to get them all, even with the Dwarven Fishing Rod, so be prepared to replace the sinker on your line with a time sinker. So given they are random, let's just go in alphabetical order. To start off, we will be looking at Denstagmer's ring. It, of course, goes on your finger. It has a weight of 0.25, which is entirely standard for a ring. It has a value of 1,254, which is lovely, but do not dare sell it. Not after the effort you will endure to retrieve it. And its enchantment grants a 20% resistance to fire, frost, and shock magic enchantments, effects, abilities, all that stuff. Now, this enchantment has no hidden mechanics. It's a very simple and rather potent arcane defensive effect, and makes it a handy finger ornament to keep in your pocket for when you find yourself facing off against those filthy spell chuckers, or dragons even. Now physically, Denstagmer's ring has a very squared and blocky design, forged of a dark grey alloy, with a huge red rectangular stone set on the face, with a smaller oval gem beneath it, surrounded by a kind of sunburst etching. On either front side of the band, there are also smaller rectangular stones mimicking the large one on the face. Now, the Denstagmer's ring has appeared only once in a previous game, and that would be the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, in which it could be found within the Phallus ancestral tomb within an urn, along with the ashes of D. Bryant. Now, this D. Bryant is actually an Easter egg and a reference to D. Bryant, who was a longtime Elder Scrolls Forums member who sadly passed away during the game's development. So the lore of the ring is a mystery. Literally nothing is known about its origin or story. Even the name Denstagmer is a mystery, as Yagrum Bagan states in his book on Tamrielic lore. Although I do believe that Denstagmer could be an alias that D. Bryant used. And of course, Denstagmer would stand for the D part of D. Bryant. Now, in Morrowind, Denstagmer's ring provided a 30% resistance to frostfire and shock, 1.5 times more powerful than the version in Skyrim. So it would seem that the enchantment has weakened over the years. Physically, the ring has the classic Morrowind artifact look, made of a white alloy with red gems. But what is cool is that this same appearance has been replicated within the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Although the color of the metal band has changed, the overall design rings rather true. But overall, it's a very welcome addition to Skyrim, and has some pretty basic and broad use against all array of magical abilities, really. And if you don't want to use it, just add it to your artifact collection. The next ring that we can fish up is called the Mentor's Ring. Of course, best of luck catching it. So the Mentor's Ring, it goes in your finger as it is a ring. It has a weight of 0.25, as with pretty much every other ring in the game. It has a nice big value of 2,092 golds, but of course, don't you dare sell it. And its enchantment. All spells cost 10% less magicka to cast. Now this enchantment is actually huge, very powerful, and just generally useful for anyone who plans on using magic in their playthrough. I mean, the benefits speak for themselves. It is yet another handy and very simple enchantment that could make a big difference for your sorcerer builds. Being able to last 10% longer in battle before needing to take a big swig from one of them blue bottles some folk call Restore Magicka potions. Now physically, the ring follows suit from Denstagmer's ring, with the exact same model and shape but has purple gemstones, while still carrying that dark grey alloy colour. The lore for the Mentor's Ring is quite brief, with its only factual mention or mention at all coming from Yagrum Bagan's book on artifacts, Tamrielic lore. And I quote, "This ring is a prized possession of any apprentice to magic. It lends the wearer the ability to increase their intelligence and wisdom, thus making their use of magic more effective. The High Wizard, Kani Azron, is said to be the creator of the ring. It was a construct for his young apprentices while studying under his guidance, aka he let his apprentices use it to help them in their magical training. After Azron's death, the ring, along with several other of his possessions, vanished and have been circulated throughout Tamriel. So it seems to have a humble and rather kind concept behind it." Now, the Mentor's Ring's first appearance was within the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, and it could be found inside the Samaris Ancestral Tomb within an urn labeled Lord Bryn, along with the ashes of Lord Bryn. Now, this Lord Bryn is actually an Easter egg and reference to longtime Elder Scrolls forums member named Bill Iberg, who went by the name Lord Bryn online. Sadly, he passed away during the game's development. Lord Bryn was active and admired in other gaming communities as well, and is referenced within Might and Magic 8 with a dungeon called the Tomb of Lord Bryn. He was also referenced within Deus Ex, where a tombstone can be found in his memory, and he was also referenced within Ultimate 9 Ascension, where a grave can be found in his remembrance. Although I couldn't find a photo of this in-game grave, but I did strangely find a photo of his actual grave, which rather sweetly has Lord Bryn inscribed at the top. So he was clearly widely admired and perhaps seen as a mentor, and that is why the Mentor's Ring can be found with his ashes within Morrowind. Now, in the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, the Mentor's Ring fortifies both intelligence and willpower by 10 points, essentially giving you a better chance of casting spells and also giving you a bigger magicka pool. While taking a completely different path, it does act in a very similar way to how it does here within Skyrim. Physically, the Mentor's Ring, once again, it has that classic Morrowind ring style, big, bold, and beautifully ugly. After this, the Mentor's Ring then appeared within the now discontinued Elder Scrolls Legends, where it was, would you believe it, just a card that you could get from opening card packs. It was an item card that basically buffed the minion that you put it on, nothing too interesting. And of course, it has now appeared right here within the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, and has appeared to hold true to its original design, which is a marvel in and of itself. Now, the next item that we can acquire from fishing randomly is the Ring of Kynareth. It, of course, goes on your finger. It has a weight of 0.25, which is to be expected. It has a rather meager value of 320, and its enchantment. Rainstorms occur while fishing at temperate lakes and streams. Now this is the ring I mentioned much earlier on in the video, and it has the exact same enchantment as the lucky fishing hat that we looked at earlier. So if you did hand the lucky fishing hat back to Swims in Deep Water, well, fret no longer, as this piece plays the exact same role. It's just smaller and lighter. Of course, if you want to actually fish with a fishing rod and catch fish that only appear during rainstorms, then this item will come in great use. If not, then this thing is as useless as a chocolate kettle. Interestingly, while the ring does seem super vanilla and basic in its appearance, it is actually unique physically, as while it does share the same model with the rest of the jeweled rings within the game, there are no silver colored rings with a blue gem. There are gold rings with blue gems, and there are silver rings with different colored gems, none of which are blue though, but here we have a silver band with a blue gem. And this is actually unique within the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, so there's something. Also, the blue gem appears to be in reference to the fact that the shrines and amulets of Kynareth have a blue gemstone set within them. So given this is the Ring of Kynareth, it seems to be carrying on that aesthetic. I was also unable to find any reference to a Ring of Kynareth anywhere within the lore, and therefore, of course, within any previous Elder Scrolls game, so this item appears to be a new addition. The next item we can fish up after hours of standing around is the Ring of Phynaster. It goes on your finger. It has a weight of 0.25, which is normal, and it has a value of 1,347. And its enchantment, 20% resistance to magic, shock, and poison. Now, if you are looking for resistances, then this ring paired with the Ring of Denstagmer seems to be a pretty nice combo. While of course you could make something better yourself if your enchanting level is high enough, but for a free ring that you pull out of the creek, it's not too bad at all. What is slightly more interesting though is its lore. The ring was created by the hero god of the Somerset Isles, Phynaster, the Guardian. He taught the Ultima people to extend their lives by hundreds of years by simply shortening their stride when they walk. While the Ring of Phynaster helped Phynaster himself prolong his own life with its protective abilities, it may have also been his undoing, as he was killed by a gang of vagabonds known as the Wharf Rats, who killed him purely to gain possession of his ring. Now, the Ring of Phynaster first appeared within the Elder Scrolls Arena, in which it provided a shield along with resistance to poison, shock, and a spell shield, aka it protected against magical abilities. So its effects seem to be the same here in Skyrim. And as we know, consistency is good. Now, in Arena, the ring is found randomly in either Elsewhere or Morrowind. And of course, with all jewelry in Arena, it doesn't have any physical art asset that I can show you. It then appeared within the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, where it can be found within the Senim ancestral tomb on an altar along with the remains of Pop G. This Pop G is an Easter egg and reference to one of Morrowind's developers, Gary Noonan's father, who sadly passed away during the game's development. In Morrowind, the ring provides a 20% resistance to poison, shock, and magicka, which is not only almost exactly what it is in Arena, but it is actually exactly the same as it is here in Skyrim. Now, physically, the ring, would you believe it, carries that classic big dick Morrowind ring model, with a bright white band and a vibrant red gemstone on its face, along with smaller gems on the sides, and a pinkish oval gem at the bottom of its face. So it is nice to see the return of this ring, created by someone who is now an ultimate deity of magic. It is also very nice to see the mechanics and magics of the ring carried on through the games. While its appearance has differed somewhat, it's not too big of a deal, as both the old and new designs are pretty cool. Although, I must say, the older Morrowind design is my personal favorite. And finally, we have one more item to take a look at, and that is the Ring of the Wind, which can of course be randomly fished up along with the others. So, the Ring of the Wind, it goes on your finger, surprise surprise. It has a weight of 0.25, but you probably could have guessed that at this point. It has a value of 650, which is surprisingly low, and its enchantment, it increases your movement speed by 15%. Now, this ring is cool. It has a simple effect and it will get you places 15% faster, but it also helps you get away from enemies or to enemies 15% faster as well. So it can actually be quite handy in combat. You know, something to keep in your pocket for when you just need to get away from that frenzied frost troll as fast as possible before it kills you. Slap this on and you might just make it out alive. Unlike Lynea. Actually, you know what? You should give it to Lynea for when you go up to High Hrothgar so she doesn't die. Now, physically, the ring is the same as the previous ring we looked at, but has blue gems while still holding that dark grey alloy. Now, the lore of the ring is brief, said to have belonged to the nimble acrobat Kisimba Springsnow, who was said to always land on her feet, except for when she chose to land on the feet of others. Not too sure what that means, like is she running around playing Tootsies in Tamriel? But it is believed to be a legendary artifact of elsewhere and sacred to Kynareth, which might explain its blue coloring. Now, in Yagrum Bagan's book on Tamrielic lore, the Ring of the Wind is said to grant the wearer added speed, which is interesting because Yagrum Bagan's book on Tamrielic lore was introduced in the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, and in the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, the Ring of the Wind appeared here, but it didn't grant increased speed. So in Morrowind, it can be found in the possession of one Dalmas Dren, a Dunmer battle mage located within the cave known as Namu. Interestingly, the Ring of the Wind within Morrowind fortifies the attribute Agility by 30 points, which by the way is huge. Strangely though, in Morrowind there is a speed attribute. So, despite Yagrum Bagan's description, it does not actually increase your speed in-game. I mean, sure, it increases your agility 30 points, which has a wide array of great uses, but it doesn't make you faster. Anyway, physically, the Ring of the Wind is very similar to all of the other artifact rings in Morrowind, but it does have a slightly different design, with the blue-white alloy and the face consisting of one large and one smaller rectangular stone. The only real takeaway from Morrowind's design to the Skyrim design is the blue gems. Apart from that, the new version appears as a much simpler, less high fantasy ring. Despite its name, it hasn't exactly blown me away. And with that, I do believe that we have covered absolutely everything you need to know to get your hands on all of the unique, rare, and notable items that can be acquired within the Skyrim Anniversary Edition update for fishing. I'd love to know if you have any other tips or tricks or information or anything that I've missed about any of these items. If you come up with any cool build ideas or way to use any of the things we covered in this video, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Also, let me know what other Anniversary Edition content you would like me to make videos about to help you out. Be sure to check out all of my social media links down in the description. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, along with checking out the merch store. It's a great way to support the channel and get something cool at the same time. If you enjoyed this video, do me a kindness, leave a like and subscribe for more useful and interesting, hopefully, Elder Scrolls content. As I'm sure you know, all of my time and energy goes into making these videos that I create for you to enjoy. So if you would like to support the channel in a more personal way, feel free to become a patron on Patreon or become a member right here on YouTube. Your support is most welcomed and appreciated in any and all forms. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thanks for buying all of my merch. I've been Camel, and I will see you very shortly in the next video. I'll see you there soon.